Oh, I forgot I was up there.
You scoot forward, then you can be as far.
Okay.
And I thought I was going to be out of it. I thought it was right there.
Somebody say, go. Quick. We're doing roll.
Go.
We're doing roll.
Oh.
Think of me.
Courtney Moore. I'm the Sierra Development Manager. Downtown.
That's weird for me.
Hey, you're a little late.
I know. Well, hey, you don't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Hey, Grant.
Karen Press, Tampa Downtown Partnership.
David Hollis, Camp Housing Authority. Lorenzo Lee, Camp Housing Authority.
Thomas Murphy.
Travis Mullen. Matt's out.
We are here.
Good, thank you.
I usurped your authority, Thomas.
Love
I
it.
took
There
over.
we go.
So we're at public comment, so I'll hand it back to you at public
Is
comment.
there any public comment today? No public comment?
Yeah, I could
Oh,
be,
yeah, okay, sure, absolutely.
I could be, and I'm rolling.
No, we appreciate it.
So I, try to make it a habit to come to all of these meetings to represent the downtown partnership. Our staff has kind of divvied them up, and I asked for this one because I just love this neighborhood. So just a couple updates I'll start with the fun stuff. We continue to do the Central Park Eats food truck rally. I believe it was last night. It's right around now, anyway. Friends will look at me like maybe not. And then this Saturday at Gilligan Park, we have our annual Easter event called Egg Exploration. So if you want to, especially if you have little kids in your life, we have 40,000 eggs in the line. They're not real eggs because we couldn't afford that. And then a couple updates on our Dash rideshare system. It's downtown area shared hubs. We did just select a new tech partner. So we think that will even help better streamline the service, maybe to the point where we could even add a second hub in this neighborhood. Right now, the first hub is just right along the park at Ray Charles and Central. So just maybe be thinking about that if we can, if the timeliness of the service will allow a second location, we'll come back to you to get some input on specifically where that might be. And then from transportation and planning world, which is what I work on, we have done a North End Vision Framework. We presented that to the downtown CAC a few months ago, but basically we've taken kind of the big chunk of downtown stretching from Nebraska to the river, the interstate, Scott Street down to about Twiggs, and really looked at all of the opportunities. One thing we found is that 68% of the land is publicly owned. There's a lot of underutilized lots and surface parking, et cetera. So it's not a master plan, but we're trying to dictate what should go on every block, but we've just been kind of out beating the drum, showing that there's still a lot, there's a neighborhood yet to emerge in this area, and there's lots of opportunity. So in conjunction with the city of Tampa releasing the RFP for the Army-Navy lots, I don't know if you guys are following that, we're happy to sit down with anyone who's interested in learning more about kind of that smaller block context in a larger area. We started to have those discussions. So if you'd like more information, I'd be happy to bring the presentation back in another time. And then we are, one of the things that plan calls for is for Ray Charles Boulevard, AKA Laurel Street, to be kind of like the Water Street of this neighborhood. So we would like to see that with, wider sidewalks, enhanced pedestrian realm, et cetera. It's a great connection right over to the river, especially when the Ashley Drive Reconnecting Communities grant, when that work comes through, which I think is maybe fiscal year 27, if I remember correctly, and kind of looking at Courtney to give me the nod on that. Yeah. And then we're meeting with the Florida Department of Transportation on Tuesday, because one of the other ideas of the plan is to, I'm going to use a technical term, but the wonky road network just to the west of Perry Harbor Park, Jefferson, all that orange, all that kind of mess, we think there could be some better grid alignment there with some potential redevelopment blocks created in the process. So we talked to the city of Tampa Mobility about it. They're supportive, but of course they said you need to talk to FDOT just because it's so closely intertwined with the interstate.
Yeah, now that's supposed to go away,
right? That entry into the interstate is going away. The entry and exit off the Scott Street there. I mean,
Or by the Burger King?
yeah,
Orange that goes up there. It goes on I-4, 275.
Yeah.
You're saying that's going away totally?
well, unless they change the plans, the idea is North Boulevard. That is going to be where you exit to go to downtown. And then the Ashley Street and all that goes away. Those ramps.
Yeah, I think you might have an outdated plan. Have you had recent meetings on this or?
It's been a little while since I.
Okay, well, I will get confirmation on Tuesday when we meet with FDOT, because that will be important to understand what's happening
Yeah.
to the on and off ramps.
So that
right
was
here.
going to be a part of the ultimate that also included, all of the connections with the airport, with safety, and all the construction you see going on now,
Yeah,
the bridges and all.
sure, yeah. Yeah, my understanding is that the Ashley ramp will become the only off-ramp for what we call the managed lanes, the express lanes, AKA toll lanes. So Ashley Drive will just serve that community.
Okay.
So it'll be good to get clarification on what's happening more on the east side. So those are some of the things that are kind of co-located with this neighborhood. And then on the operations for the street team, kind of our most tangible product, the people who are, walking around pushing the trash cans. A few months ago, we implemented walk paths for them, trying to identify where, heavy litter occurs. Michael, we might have to keep kind of like safety eyes and ears on things and people. So hopefully you've noticed a difference in the neighborhood. And if you have any concerns or hot spots of interest, please just let us know. We can always try to adjust that.
What's the furthest boundary that the street team goes to in this area?
So we call it our special services district. We go to Palm Avenue up by the Central City Y. This area, Scott Street and North is not in our district. So the farm, unfortunately, is just right outside of our district. So I would love to say we love farm. And all of this area over to Nebraska.
Anything about
Yeah, and then the Channel District is part of it, and then basically it's water to the east, water to the south. So Harbor Island is not part of our district, and then on the west side we stretch over to Boulevard. So that's kind of our box.
Well, beyond Boulevard, right?
Well, sorry,
It hasn't happened yet.
oh yeah, you're right. We could talk about that, but yeah, we might enter into a contract, looks like we're going to with the Housing Authority to provide some of our street team services, like our operations part of the house over in the West River development.
Wow.
So that's a first for our organization, yeah.
Yes.
Thanks for that reminder, Lorenzo.
Yeah.
Always open to feedback, concerns, questions. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all for public comment. So I guess we'll go to approving last month's minutes. And we'll make a motion to approve. All right. Motion by David Hollis. Anyone like to second? Second. Anyone?
I don't like Pam because I wasn't a member last month.
Right.
Yep. So let's use Travis. Okay, so I will approve those as well. So they'll be three of us, great, good. To approve last month's minutes, great, good.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Perfect, and now we'll move on to presentation. So Lorenzo, you're up.
All right. Okay, so my friend wanted to have some information on the retail piece. What's going on with that? We are working with a few, well, it's really more like mom and pop groups that are interested in, being part of the retail space in our business, in the future. And that's the atmosphere we're trying to create. We really want, like, a mom and pop type of restaurant or, tea spot for this location, well, for our location to, just number one, to enhance the people that live right here in Tampa. And instead of, branching out to the bigger, franchises. But there's a lot to come. There's a lot that's going on. Like in Raleigh, they have 15,000 square feet of retail space that's on the way. And they haven't named any of their retailers yet, but I know they've been working on it in conversation with the developer. The same with Lot 12. Well, Lot 12 has the grocer coming in. But they also own Lot 5, which will have roughly about 10 to 15,000 square feet of retail coming in as well. So there's a lot going on, and I can tell you about Lot 10. Lot 10 developer has roughly 40,000 square feet of retail. And I know in my last conversation with him, he was working on, major retailers that's going to be in this space.
Does everybody know what those lots, which lots are which that the rest of
That's
moreover?
the one that's still vacant.
That's the one.
In the middle.
Yes. Yes, and, kind of in the middle, but, the one closest to Tax.
Yeah, faces cash.
And Lot 8 is the one that's under construction right now, by Mill Creek. And I think you said there was a question about Lot 13 as well.
Just maybe share whatever you can.
Okay. All right, and Lot 13 is actually, we're working on incorporating it into the Encore CD. So it's supposed to go before the board next month. I think the first reading is like May 2nd or something like that. I believe it's May 2nd. And then the second reading is May 15th.
Lot 15, which one's that?
Lot 13.
Cool. I'm sorry.
Lot 13 is the corner of Nebraska.
The little lot, the small one.
Yes, it's about an acre. Yeah. So the same developer as Lot 8 is the developer that we're currently in an agreement with now, a purchase and sale agreement to purchase that property. Yeah.
Who owns that one, so? Is it locally owned?
It's owned by the housing authority.
Well, you already own it, you just wasn't in the CBD for some reason.
Well, we didn't own it when we originally planted the CDD. It was owned by other entities. And as those entities, moved out, we purchased those, converted that land. Like the banana handlers was right there in Nebraska. You remember that building? We ended up
There's a little barbecue place.
Yeah, and then, yes, there was a barbecue place that was right there on the corner. Small building, small parking lot, and we ended up buying that, then demolishing that building, and then I think along that corridor.
There was a lot of radio.
Yes, and that was a quarter.
It was tiny. It was actually landlocked.
Yeah, yes. It was a small sliver of land that she owned, and we were eventually able to obtain, and in the longshoreman, that's actually where their bank was located. They had their vault there, and we were able to purchase that land from them, and that all totals the land for Lot 13. And Mill Creek is interested in that land. Well, like I said, we're in an agreement with them right now. They're doing their due diligence, but a lot of it is waiting on us to incorporate it into the Encore CD.
Will it be residential?
It's residential right now. They're proposing 350 units, and then retail on the bottom floor. So, that one has very little restriction because it's in the central business district area. So it'll only be restricted by, yeah.
Small lot, 350, it seems it's total.
Yeah. That's what they're planning to do. Well, right now, the total building we will have is Lot 10, 28 stories. 20-story. The hotel, 178-key hotel. So, a lot going on. The landscape was very different once everything is completely built out. Yeah, we have over 2,000 units out there. And it's like, well, we had 400 or something, units before. And none of those were on the tax roll. So,
We put a lot, and we tell a lot's going back on the tax rolls.
Yeah.
But we left out the fun fact that you and I discovered a couple of years ago about that homeless gentleman. He jimmied the back door.
oh, yes, yes. On the longshoreman building that we owned, before we demoed it, one of the homeless guys, he found a way to get in, and he was charging $5 to the other homeless people to stay there.
But they couldn't come to the building until after
Yeah.
dark, and then they all had to be gone before light.
Right.
And when you would walk by, we're like, this fence looks like it's not.
Yeah.
So we were doing an inspection on something back there a couple of years ago. And so it's like, well, look at that. Look, there's, through the weeds, there's a path.
Yeah.
So we followed it to the back door of the longshoreman's building. And then, but you gotta give the guy credit.
Yeah,
I mean,
we
here's
were.
a guy, he figured out a need, he made a few dollars.
Yeah.
People got to sleep from inside. Now that longshoreman's building, you talk about some nifty mold and
Yeah.
mildew growing in that building. That was just, we walked in there the first time without anything. I think from then on out, we wore, masks and all that stuff. But there was a guy who,
Did you pay extra for breakfast or no?
I don't know,
Yeah.
there was no operational plumbing, which was becoming an
Applicants
issue.
or questions or interest in these commercial spaces. And there's an ask this just because I feel like they've been vacant for, almost coming up on 20 years now. Since we started, when things get built, because the theorists are in initially 06 and got to the, what he said, that those buildings like down here, it's been a long time. But they've just been there for-
First building was that
The Ella is the
2012.
12, okay.
And it opened at the end of 2000.
Okay.
And, and it, currently has an occupant there. But it's just, as you're developing the area and, and this area was being rebranded, we've had interest, we had some interest, and for whatever reasons, things didn't work out for some of them. But sometimes it did, just like with precinct pizza, they came here, they were on Channel Side. They were on Channel Side and, was it? Newtown.
They had another location.
Yeah, Newtown. And then, they came here, liked it, moved into the space. And along with, Head Start, Head Start.
That's not.
Head Start is coming back.
It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming back.
A zoning issue for any of the restaurants that wanted to go in the corner, right? If that started being so close. Liquor, was that
There
something?
was a question about that, but, I'm not aware that was.
We never tested.
Yeah, I just didn't know if that was gonna still affect that rest, that I thought it was long enough, not coming back, I didn't know if that was gonna affect what would go in that corner, if they would not be able to have.
I think that when we were working on that, and then don't forget 2.5 years of COVID.
Right.
Didn't help anything.
Right.
2.5 years of COVID, 2 years in the HUD 106 process with the Bro Bowl, where we couldn't do any development for
Right.
22 months. So while we've been out here developing, we've been roughly 3 years with COVID, puts around 22 months up to 24 months. 2 years with a glitch. The people that, if you all remember the old Bro Bowl was out there.
Mhm.
Well, somebody got in tune on all that. We think there were some people that used it here that contacted the National Skateboarder Bowlers magazine. who discovered it. It was one of 3 left in the country. And in the HUD manual, there's a paragraph number 106, so it's called HUD Process 106. Basically, any federal funding that was in this area ceased until we solved that problem. And so, so we negotiated and in good faith, and then we actually spent a whole lot of dollars moving the Bro Bowl up to the north end of Perry Harvey Park. And if anybody's into that, which is great because it's something that the community can use, it's really pretty well used, quite frankly. But we actually, part of the agreement was we actually moved the old original mobiles that were in the Bro Bowl. We moved them up to the new Bro Bowl, and they're the seating areas where people are changing out their gear and stuff like that. So, and then we had USF come down and radio map the original Bro Bowl. So the mobiles are over here, and then we reproduced the original Bro Bowl exactly the way it was inside of the high-tech Bro Bowl. And that process took us, that agreement took us 22 months. So basically, we've had the brakes put on twice since 2010 when we moved our first spade of dirt. And then, like Lorenzo said, December 2012 was when we had the final CO on Ellen. So it's been, you know, and then all those are stops and starts, so there's that. And then also, and I think we talked about this a little bit the last time before Lorenzo came. I mean, you know, we've had a number of people come to us, like let's say the theater. We've had people come to us, but you know, good-minded people, you know, they would bring a team. None of the team members had ever worked with any of the other team members before. They really didn't have even any startup capital. Their business plan was to raise startup capital once we started, you know, well, you can't do that. I mean, you know, that doesn't, you gotta have somebody that's gonna come in. You don't wanna open a cool thing like that theater just to have it close in 18 months. So we've had a couple of attractive offers, but they just did, and we don't just say no. We put together a team of people at Tampa Housing Authority. Usually Lorenzo and or I or both of us are part of that team. And we get into the financials, we do interviews, we do the whole 9 yards to work on, you know, what is real viability of, because we actually shoulder a majority of the ramp up expense. So, you know, on the other hand, it doesn't really cost us anything for that cold gray shell to sit there. We don't pay anything, there's no rent or anything like that. So we want to make sure that whatever the choice is, it's the best choice for the neighborhood. So, and there are a bunch of theater groups that are, you know, looking to relocate.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of moving parts to your good question about, you know, hey, how's that come along?
I just wondered because like we just had to have our strategic plan rewritten because it's a far cry from when we first started. That's what I'm wondering about this theater thing, because this is one that constantly comes up.
Sure.
It's a very niche request, and it sounded great.
Absolutely.
But is it still something that is viable and is going to be useful down here, or is it something that's worth exploring? That things have changed. Maybe that's not the best idea it was then. Maybe it's not now. And exploring if there's something else. Because I was going to ask you too, what are you doing for marketing for these spaces?
I was about to ask something very similar. Is there a standard concession rate or standard? You mentioned that you guys are burdening most of the expense on the TI fit out, but is there a standard fee or how much you guys are taking out of that? No, that you're investing in the TI fit outs. Are you doing the complete TI fit outs for potential
We're not
tenants?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
We do
we're
the
not gonna
lion's share.
Yeah,
Okay.
We you know, we do because it's a program share. And the whole concept behind that is so that when that tenant comes in, you know, they have, you know, first rights at, you know, where the bathrooms are, where, you know, facilities are. And, so we're committed to that. And again, just like we did with the grocer, you know, we had Publix come here, we talked to them, we had Walmart come here, we talked to them, but unless you're willing to, you know, to provide what we're looking for this site, then we'll wait. So just like we waited until now, you know, we have a grocer that's under construction now. You know, we're doing the same thing in these spaces. And yes, there will be a performance theater in this space.
And it's still our plan.
Yes.
Affirming.
What if one doesn't come for 15 years, it'll just sit for 15 years?
I'll be dead.
I'm just curious.
Well, we're going after it now. Right.
We're actively pursuing. We
Yeah,
are
right.
waiting for people to discover.
Sure, I was just curious on the marketing aspect of it, like where, like someone were to be interested, or, you know, we're someplace and we think, oh, this isn't to be a great fit, how could we put them, you know?
Call it Vince or Reed.
Sure, but like, they don't have the option to do that, is there something online where they can look at that space?
Well,
and
that's
budget?
what I'm saying, there's a RFP right now
Okay.
that's out there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and if they go on our website, they can see it.
The TJ website?
Yeah. And it's been out there for a while. I mean, it's been out there for, man, I would venture to say a minimum of 6 months.
Mhm.
And we've met with different groups, we've talked to them, and actually just as recent as last week, I opened it up for another group to come out and take a look at it. And I just heard from the property manager that she had somebody come by and go and get it. So, you know, this RFP will end the end of this month. And we anticipate having several viable, you know, upgrades. Yeah.
Yeah, my concern was just like with these guys building all these new spaces, you have these brand new commercial spaces that are, you know, absolutely brand new buildings, you know, in the same space. What's going to make someone want to choose one of these spaces that we've had sitting here this long, opposed to some brand spanking new, brand new building?
Yeah. Well, and like I said, you know, the type of tenant we're going after, you know, they don't typically get opportunities like this, you know. Mom and pop, they don't typically get the opportunity to go into a building like this in a location like this. It's typically not feasible for them.
Yeah,
to do it.
I know when Sheldon Theaters was there, one of her big issues was the parking. A lot of the residents parking in front of the spaces, and then when people would want to come up to grab a to-go or to do something, they didn't know where to park because all of the residents were parking on the street and not parking in the parking garage. And that was a huge issue.
And we did resolve that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 2-hour parking now, and the city monitors the parking. Along with, there's parking inside of the building.
Oh, yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
for sure. I just know, like, when you're down here enough, we know that, because we're down, you know what I mean? Even when we had that meeting, when we had our Rotary meeting, and I told people, like, you can park, you know, parking garage, well, it says retail, it's like, we're gonna get towed because we're going to the farm, you know, it's like, oh, God, you know,
And
so.
yeah, and we worked that out for the farmers for traffic, and, you know, when the volume was getting to be quite a bit, you know, we are always in contact with everyone we work with. So, and we make everything available, you know, so that they can prosper. And Travis is, you know, he could testify to what we, you know, what we have. And that wouldn't be any different for any other tenant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, the more you're down here, the more you understand it. When you're just come down for something new, you're like, and then I know me, if I'm looking around and I can't find a place, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna go. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna mess around and do something. So, you know, that might just be something to think about. For
I
first
think
time
it's
people.
reasonable to think that there's parking in the garage.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you do, because we all park in the garage, and you can see us retail parking, so, you know, people would, I assume, be comfortable parking in those spots.
Well, we brought our bikes inside because there wasn't a bike rack, just saying. There's other kinds of parking that's also needed. No, well, no, but it'd be nice to have a bike rack.
Actually, we have bike racks if you look around the community, you'll see these things that are disguised, but they're really
Yeah.
bike racks.
Decorative, yeah.
Those things with musical notes on
Yeah.
them that are on the corners, those are
Yeah.
actually bike racks.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't know it, but
I never imagined.
that's a very
I didn't
artsy bike rack.
I didn't notice one on this block, but then it's harder.
There's usually one at every
Okay.
Commercial
four,
spaces down here.
you know, two street intersection.
Okay.
No, for asset management too.
Oh, yeah, like I said, things that are easy to share, you know what I mean?
And they're not
Like people to-
And I think there's still, the signage still should have a name and a number on it.
Is that like on like LoopNet or anything like that?
No, they have
No, I'm saying something where you go on like LoopNet or any of those commercial sites where
Lewis
people are on it.
Bonding, you know.
They would have to specifically be through THA, there's nothing on any other websites advertising.
Not the one. Our asset management really handles that part of it. They coordinate with,
And that's Lewis. Well, the-
Lewis Bonding is
Yeah,
the
that's on.
director. Yeah, he's the director.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, on all of those spaces, I know that information is there, and I know we work with several different spaces. Yeah.
Gotcha. Does have any questions on for Enzo?
Lorenzo, well, I think I heard at a previous meeting that Jazz Club was on the wish list. Is that still, did I dream that, or is that the case?
I think
That
we
would
discussed-
probably be the
The
theater.
theater, we had discussed if we were, if they would consider a performance art theater like Stageworks or something, if that would be something they would be open to kind of molding in, to keeping that as a entertainment space, but maybe not, because I keep thinking just like Stageworks too, is what you guys are kind of looking for. And so we just kind of explore that as an option. Would that be something that we could potentially do, that would still have that entertainment aspect and still have the dining aspect of it, but not maybe be so niche?
Just, yeah, like right over here on Nebraska, there's a new tiny little space that's a comedy club called Commodore, right behind us.
Yeah,
That's
the old
cool.
Ingle Lounge was.
Yeah, like there's, yeah, I would suggest a flex.
Now, you know, just in, like what you're talking about with the theater space, you know, it would be, it would be a theater space, you know. However, it would also have other, you know, it would be flexible to where you could have, say a concert, you have somebody come and perform. So it's not, the stage is not, you know, like at the Straws where you get straight out of the big stage. It's flexible, it's movable, so that you can move it around. And the space is flexible as well, so you can move it around. But yeah, the intent of it is, you know, one is it has to be self-sustained. But you know, it just offers, you know, to the community what it needs, along with, you know, providing performance.
And I think where Thomas is wanting to go
Yeah.
is, you know, could it be like, which our answer would be a polite no. You know, could it be a community theater kind of place?
No, not so much that. Like I said, I
They need
I'm
somebody to
thinking-
go in there. It's just like, well, it's not just like, it's slightly similar to the St. James Church. In other words, we built that beautiful, we maintained that beautiful building at high expense. We were trying to figure out what to do with it. And then we had a couple of different ideas. And then fortunately, we ran into Fred over at,
The History Center?
well,
But
Lorenzo and I have an inside story there, which we won't go into. But in other words, so they came and said like, okay, we'll take over management of this, and here's what we're gonna do, da, da, da. So it would have to be something at least similar to that, where there would be some entity that would be able to have a pro forma, including the financial pro forma, of something that financially works. Now, what the outcome would be was like, I mean, the one idea we were talking to that other group a while, years ago, was, build a portable stage where the stage could act for a larger group. The stage could be in this corner. If it was something more casual, the stage could go over here. And so, I mean, we, Tampa Housing Authority, we think that something in the arts, it's time for this community is right for something unique in the arts. The people will not only come from, Ella, not only come from Legacy, they'll come from 2 miles away to make it a Friday evening activity.
Yeah.
So it's got to be something that stands on its own, has the ability to operate, year round. They've got a business plan. They have current financial backing. All those types of considerations. In other words, but I think, as Lorenzo said, as far as Lorenzo and I know, the plan is that that's going to be some sort of a theater, a community enrichment kind of thing, that all people from a number of communities would have different types of events there, where it would be literally a destination, not people from New York, but it would be a community destination thing to go there. And we're kind of fortunate that since it doesn't cost us anything to maintain it, we can,
And I see what
we
you're saying.
aren't asleep at the wheel.
Right.
We've got a lot of feelers out. We've got commercial real estate people looking for leads. It's on our website. Most people have that kind of savvy tech, even people in my age bracket. So anyway, so we're actively looking to fill it, but we aren't actively willing to sell our dream short, because that dream's for the community.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask if you talked to the Tampa Repertory Theater, Tampa Rep. I'm a lover of local theater, and they don't have a home, so they move around. Like, they're playing at the Jade Theater this weekend, and they played at Stageworks, they played up at USF, they played at HCC Ebor.
And I, it's possible.
Yeah, something to think about. They don't have a home.
If you,
Yeah, I'd be happy to
If you want to
try to make a
refresh them.
connection.
yeah, yes.
I'll talk to them Friday night. and see.
Right now, what they would need to do, and they have a short time to do it, because they have to turn it in by the 30th of this month. The RFP is on our website.
Okay.
Yeah, and they can go there, they can download it, and
Okay, I'll look into that.
yeah. But like right now, I couldn't answer any question for you because of the proximity of the time. Now, it's possible, it's possible we have it, believe that with a lot of different,
Yeah, got it, okay.
over the period of
All
time.
right, I'll just make sure they know about it.
And it is advertised, matter of fact, it is advertised in one of the parts. I remember seeing, an article talking about this one. As a matter of fact, talking about that we were advertising for the theater operator. And this was in one of the art magazines that I saw it, because it was forwarded to me. But yeah, it's out there.
I just think it's tough because like still a lot of people don't even know about this program when
Yeah.
you describe it.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I'm not saying that, not because
Right.
but like, I just know in situations like this, you have to work extra hard.
Right.
Because you don't, like, even when we had Meach, we had people in Meach, they're like, where is it at? And I always have to say, west of Ybor, south of Tampa, and they're like, wait, well, what is that?
Yeah.
So there's not gonna have, it's not like someplace in Hyde Park or some people already know that it's established, it's easy, they want to get in there. This is still an area that we're trying to get people down to. So like when you were saying it's not costing you guys anything, but is it costing the neighborhood? Because people aren't coming down, this isn't a destination yet.
Right.
There isn't something
Well-
that's bringing that.
The farm is, we'll just say the farm is doing pretty well.
Yes.
Okay, however, as Travis can tell you, in the last 2 years, probably less time than that, so I'm just gonna say in the last 2 years, we've had every city commissioner out, we've had every county commissioner out, let alone people from the state of Florida and from Washington. So we won't even count that. We'll just count every county commissioner, every city commissioner, and another dozen local officials out. And they have all said exactly the same thing. Wow, this is outstanding. How long has this been here? We don't even know about it. You know? So yeah, so I'm saying what you're saying is, yeah, I mean, people that live here, you know, remember good old, you know, prior development, but, yeah, so, but then again, now the farm is just killing it, you know, with their marketing and their people and all the people that do
Like I
that.
said,
But it's a long.
You made a good point about having something that people from other neighborhoods want to come here for.
Right.
And you just have like a restaurant that's anywhere else. It's only going to cater to people here. And a lot of times I don't see really that many people out walking around the neighborhood or anything. It's like,
Yeah,
why would people come here that
I
don't
don't
live
think
here?
it's gotten to its stride yet.
And that's the other
It just
part.
takes time.
Yeah.
That's the other part of what we're doing also. I mean, because we're also promoting different events, like we had the Easter event last week, Thursday. The museum is doing events constantly. They had an event last Thursday as well. And they have another one coming up in May, I believe it is.
You hired an
Along
events
with the
person,
downtown.
right?
Along with the
You hired an
downtown
events
partnership.
person, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We hired an events person to activate the site. But I mean, to your point, Hyde Park wasn't Hyde Park.
I worked in there for a long time, like I did.
Yeah.
It was a ghost town for a long time, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm
But you
saying.
don't have anything really down there, you got, you know,
Right.
Tampano, you got Russell Wine Exchange, a lot of that was all nothing, not the same thing. We relied a lot on our neighborhood locals to support us, and they did. Whereas I don't know that there's anything that the folks living in these buildings are going to, because there isn't anything.
But that's where it takes time. You know, that's where you just have to put the work in. Just like you tell me you're in Hyde Park. But I remember, I'm from here, so, you know, I know what you're talking about. And I remember everything that happened that transformed Hyde Park into what it is today. But it's just putting time, putting work, and getting the right event, just like what you have now.
And in a way, that's really fortunate that you can sit on a spot like that and not expect it to make money. It's a lot of commercial places couldn't.
Yeah.
If you put the wrong people in that farm spot, I mean, we weren't the first applicants.
Right.
We went through a couple before us, and you were able to wait till something made sense.
Get the right one. And I've said this, you know, to many, that, you know, Travis and Joe, I mean, we are fortunate because these guys are out of the box thinking. You know, they're always looking at new ways to make it better. But that was part of the mission. The mission was, you have to make it sustainable. We're gonna get you going, but you have to make it sustainable. And that's no different than what we're doing, you know, in these other states. Yeah, so like, okay, we're gonna help you get going, but you're the one that has to make it happen. And they showed us, you know, they came in their proposal, you know, they had a plan and they showed us how they would do that. And they've done it. You know, they've done it.
And just, you know, so we don't need to do that, but, you know, if you come out of the box too fast and you fail, that industry is not that big of an industry. And, you know, so you probably risk more by moving too quickly and getting something that doesn't work than to wait. Because once a spot doesn't work, then that industry, oh yeah, they tried 2 or 3 things down there. Yeah, nothing works down there. There's no reason to go look at that. So there's that's to us, because we we like everything we do to be, some of it to be unique, but we look for it all to be an out-of-the-park home run, you know? So to us, the risk is greater to just do something and have it fail big than to wait for the right deal and have it be another Meacham farm. So we're looking for the next Meacham farm, but in another industry.
But to be fair, it was a hard opportunity to find out about the farm.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's something we don't do. So
It's-
it's kind of like,
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, we had to hear about it from a friend of a friend, and
And that was us, I'm just telling you, when we put that out, you know, we were going everywhere. We were talking to everybody. We were, you know, we both went to Sweetwater.
yeah,
Yeah, we went to Sweetwater, we went to other farms in the area, you know, talking to people, about the RFP before it actually came out. So we were talking, you know, introducing ourselves, getting everybody familiar with the site and everything. And actually, when there were, I think when you guys, well, when Joe came out, you know, when we did the walkthrough of the site, when Joe came out, there were like a couple of other people, you know, that were out there and that were interested, you know, and you know, these were people that had, you know, performed before, had their own thing. But like I said, when we went through the proposals, you know, your proposal was one that, you know, that just showed the most promise. You know,
We're gonna start 4:30, so let's go ahead and do manager reports.
Oh, did we do, yeah, the minutes? So draft budget is in your packet. So we're working on the fiscal year 26 draft budget right now. We have it'll be more than the 1.4 that we just put what fiscal year 25 final number was, which was 1.4 million. So we haven't projected an increase. There will be an increase, but we're just being prudent because last year it actually didn't go as high as we were projecting. So we just kept that figure as the fiscal year 25 number there. The far left column is the budget that we're working within right now. And the white column is the total consumption of what we've spent out of Central Park's TIF dollars so far, what's available. And then I'm just trying to project for fiscal year 26 what to budget with the anticipated 1.4. Funds available looks healthy. A lot of that is wrapped up in the affordable housing requirement that we have, which is setting aside 30% of our budget every single year toward affordable housing programs. So a lot of money is held in the affordable housing to you know, and I know you talked with B, but you know, opportunities for unit conversion, if there's already a development in place, maybe the property owner would convert some of those units to affordable housing, so there's money or affordable residential residences. And so B is now spending those dollars. For instance, in the downtown CRA, LD&D was just approved for $5.4 million for putting aside affordable housing in the Lot 10 development. So we're starting to now finally spend these affordable housing dollars. But you'll see a lot of those funds that we have are in affordable housing or the commercial grants, exterior, interior grants, special project grants. So, you know, these are our way of getting money out into the community through these different programs.
Was there any reason why that budget was less than you thought it was going to be? Was there just things that were not developed?
Yeah, because like maybe the CO hadn't, you know, once we get more COs issued and, you know, it takes about a year to get on the tax roll, so.
So it'll come, it's just not.
Yeah, it'll come. it's just a timing situation. So, so I just wanted to share with you a draft of what it is I've worked on. I put aside, well, actually, I didn't put any new monies into the commercial grant side, exterior and interior, because we have a good idea of who's applying. And so we think we're sufficient with the commercial grant monies that will roll over into fiscal year 26 that are still, monies that are still available. And I definitely put aside the 30%, 421,000 is the 30% of the anticipated revenue. So that's in affordable housing. Neighborhood infrastructure is more of where it has no designation of a project. So the neighborhood infrastructure on the back page, those monies, those money are a real fun opportunity that comes along throughout the year.
Sidewalks,
Sidewalks.
would that be sidewalks and other infrastructure?
Well, if it's, we can only fund things that are above and beyond. So,
Like up on like a lot of city-owned lots up there, the furthest northern parts of our boundaries, like above like Palm. A lot of those are city-owned lots, and a lot of them either don't have sidewalks, or the sidewalks have tree roots where like you will hit your knee on it, it's so high.
yeah, so that would be, more tip dollars aren't supposed to be used toward anything that is the city's responsibility. That's where it gets a little, if it's just a sidewalk, that's the city's responsibility. The CRA can only pay for an enhancement of something the city should be responsible for doing. But yeah, and then the wayfinding signage, monies are set aside there for the wayfinding signs that should begin this summer. And then public art, working with Corey Robinson, our new public art person. We just put aside money in public art for an opportunity, whether it's the roundabout out here or artwork in the roundabout or wrapping of the signal boxes, the silver signal boxes with art of some fashion. So we did that in Ybor. And so, it's an opportunity to do that here. So we're just putting aside monies for opportunity for art. And then parks ADA improvements, the city did an assessment of where ADA improvements needed to be made throughout the CRAs. And so this would be Perry Harvey, like what improvements do they anticipate and what does that cost? We have that budgeted for a few fiscal years to make those ADA improvements in the parks.
That's interesting that's not a basic city service,
Yeah.
That's above and beyond. I'm not complaining about it, I just, an observation.
Yeah, so,
And for being as new as it is, it's funny that you have to think about that. Because it's so new, you think it already be 80 compliant.
yeah. So there's a Vieira motion, Vieira is very sensitive to ADA enhancements, compliance, et cetera. So that was a Vieira motion, and we definitely set aside money for those. And maybe it is an enhancement to what the city would have put in. But yeah, that's kind of our litmus test. If the city was only going to do this, or we could do this, the CRA can fund it. So, but anyway, I just wanted to share the draft budget with you. It's not too complex, so we'll have monies rolling over. And then, again, I put monies in the neighborhood infrastructure and improvements because that's our opportunity fund, so to speak, where things come along. We have 1 million that will roll over into fiscal year 26. And then I've placed in another 844,000. So we should have significant funds there for opportunity. And that's it.
Question about that. So above and beyond, it maybe isn't something that we would do now or maybe even ever, but is it the CAC that would do something similar to where, Water Street come holiday times puts up all those decorations and stuff like that? Is that city or is that above and beyond?
Yeah, we really have we're under statute 163, Florida state statute, and it's very specific. We really only are supposed to be spending money on like brick and mortar, affordable housing, and that's why there's this legislation in Tallahassee right now that's really coming down hard on CRAs because there are bad CRA actors out there in the state doing events, holiday events, and things that are kind of just feel good fluffy stuff.
Yeah,
And that's not what we're supposed to be doing with the TIF dollars. And so they're coming down hard on all of CRAs because of a few CRAs that are making bad decisions with how they're spending their dollars.
understood.
So,
Brittany, could you light the trees and put up lights that could change color throughout the year? So then they're like red and green during the holidays? No, that wouldn't really fly.
no.
Okay.
Encore does have lights they put up
Depends on the
along
scene.
Ray Charles.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not
we pay for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, we used to fund events,
Mhm.
actually. Yeah, in Ybor, we had a robust events program and then had to cut that about 2 years ago because of legislation. So, because we considered it an economic driver for the community, so we tried to validate
Yeah.
that we bring so many people, but through our events program by helping fund events by giving grants to promoters, and then that got nixed. So I was like, nope, can't do that anymore, so we had to cut the events program. So it's very rigid now, very, eyes are watching for Tallahassee if we're spending TIF dollars in a way we should be.
Yeah. No, I didn't mean to stir anything up. I just know that Water Street during that time, I remember people bringing people out there. It seemed like an economic driver.
Mhm.
Is why I brought it up. So that was the only
And we
reason.
tried to justify that from an event
Yeah.
standpoint. Just,
In the downtown setting, it's different.
yeah,
Okay, cool.
what I say doesn't matter, it's whatever the legislation, or the legislators say, and so that's what we're like, I had to cut the event program, which we did not want to do, but,
Were we able to strike the Johnson Brothers update, because I don't really feel like that's much of an update that we didn't know last time, just because I know we're on time crunch.
yeah, well, this is what I just happened to have this CC to me, so I just wanted to include it.
Yeah, but it's everything we've already discussed.
Yeah, so, I can invite Rosanna. Oh, okay, well,
If there's much of an update.
okay. Well, I can talk about next month's agenda.
I think this gets into, I think it gets in, I don't know, I actually haven't read this because it's not ideal. Yeah, part of it, and I don't know if I spoke to this one time when I might have been speaking to it, but,
We're just getting on a time crunch, so I just want to make sure we're.
Yeah.
well, we had to change our whole tax to, we were originally gonna do it as residential,
Yep.
then when we switched to
Yep.
commercial,
Mhm.
you go all the way back to
Sure.
the beginning and start all over again.
Right.
So we're in that final process
Well,
again.
actually, I'll, in case when Chair Henderson wanted a further update, we're actually going to be inviting THA to the June
Perfect.
so yeah. So the June CRA meeting will be extending an invitation to be be given the CRA board an update on the Johnson Brothers homes.
Great.
So. And then the other ones are in there for your review, the project tracker, and the commercial grants tracker. And then, below I just listed, in case you're not aware, I checked with Parks and Rec to ask what events are happening in Perry Harvey Park. So I just put them on your agenda so you can see what's upcoming in the park here in the community.
It's great.
Yeah, and that's all I have.
Well, one question though, on the circle marker update.
Oh, missed that one. Yeah, so I talked with Jennifer Dees, who's our social marker person within the city, but it is a county-run program.
Okay.
So she has to have the board, the county board that oversees historical markers, and I think approves which ones are installed, where their exact location is. So she has to get approval from that board, from the county, that they want to relocate or reposition. Once it's repaired, they want to reposition the historical marker since it's been damaged 3 times. It's going to get hit again. So they're going to ask for relocation of it, and then once it's repaired, it'll be moved and reinstalled in the summer, July, August timeframe. So it's coming at a new location to hopefully avoid vandalism. So that's all.
Any questions or anybody? Other comments? Good. Perfect. I guess we can adjourn.
I'm good. If everyone else
Any
is.
other questions answered? For the most part?
And Matt is now an official member.
Welcome, buddy.
Yeah, so
I've
he,
already been there, but.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
that, you can follow us from the old space.
so he was officially approved, so
So we have for, next month, anything that we're going to be working on or anything that you
if I
guys
can,
suggest?
if you wanna help me with,
Anything you want?
if you wanna help me with getting Mr. Scott Brooks to respond to me, I've tried twice, and he hasn't responded, so that would be
I
the,
was gonna tell you, like, here you go, here's his contact information, then you
Good
know
luck.
how that works.
yeah, okay. Well, I did email him twice, and so I haven't heard a response, but about the jobs training center.
Right.
So I can keep trying on that.
That's great.
Well, USF is going to reteach that same class they taught last year, which was it's a two-phase class, the one on CAD and CAM, and they just committed to teaching that again. That was about 3 or 4 days ago, I found that. So, yeah, it's, even in our opinion, the increase of the use of the job training center is not moving as robustly as we might enjoy, but they do keep slightly busy there.
It is, I was allowed to talk to the guys at the office, the tenant for the medical office space is Tampa Family Health. That's about that. And then, graduate medical education spaces, the other side is looking for, to be a nonprofit.
That's great.
Did we adjourn or not? We did, okay.
I just remembered that.
I just started moving around, I thought we adjourned. You're just chit chatting.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.